Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You're always most welcome. Well, today I start with the German flag. Now it's interesting, we're going to talk today, let's talk about Revell. Okay, now a company I have very mixed feelings about, as I'm sure many of you do too. But I've got the German flag out because, of course, they are a German company, and these days Revell is wholly owned by the Germans. It's actually, since 2018, they've been owned by a venture capital company called Quantum Capital Investments, I think it is, LLC. And they are venture capitalists, as I mentioned, and I have to be honest, when I first heard this, it sort of filled me with dread, because I have some personal experience of dealing with companies who have been bought by venture capitalists in the past. And they can, not always, but can sometimes be just asset strippers who are trying to squeeze every penny they can out of any given company. Now, Revell as a brand, and of course this is leading on from my talk about Airfix. Revell as a brand is very much in the same sort of part of the market as Airfix are. They are appealing to quite a lot of youngsters, they're appealing to quite a wide spectrum of people, especially in Europe. And they're trying to be built to a price point that's going to be competitive and affordable, and like Airfix, be a sort of spontaneous purchase, as well as the hardened, die-hard, super keen modelers like ourselves buying their product as well. So, a very, very good one to be our sequel to the Airfix talk I did a couple of weeks ago. However, here's the thing. When I think of German companies, modern German companies, especially when somebody says to me, oh, I bought such and such a product and it's made in Germany, your heart sort of leaps a little bit and you think, oh, that's going to be beautifully engineered like a Volkswagen or an Audi or a Mercedes or a Porsche. Or another fine product like, I don't know, IWC watches or AG, domestic goods, things that are well engineered. Now, some Revell products are, quite a lot of them aren't, and this is what we're going to get into. So I'm going to move the German flag, not because there's anything wrong with that, we love German products here, but we might want to, you've got to remember that first of all, many of you may not know that Revell were an American company, and they were only acquired by became German in, I can't remember the exact year, it was 2001, but basically this century. They bought Monogram in 97, 98, and then became, they were bought out by the Germans in just about the turn of the century or thereabouts. And then, as I say, there's this venture capitalist company who bought out the Hobbyco ownership. Hobbyco went bust under its previous ownership, and therefore these venture capitalists came in and took all of the Revell branding, everything, Revell America 2, under their wing. So I'm going to move the German flag because Germany, you might want to disassociate yourself from this, distance yourself from this brand when I get into more detail. Oh dear. Like I said in my previous vid, I made one or two critical comments about Airfix. They will seem as nothing, little blips, minor observations, minor critiques compared to some of the things we've got to talk about today. This is going to be a tough one. Now, because of that, I have furnished myself... Whoops, I've furnished myself, I nearly spilled it already. A bit of cork in there. Furnished myself with a nice bit of... Would you believe this is Kylie Minogue? Kylie Minogue Rosé. Oh, my wife chose this one, but actually it's really nice. It is actually very good, and I'm going to need this today. I need fortification. I need, above all, something to keep me calm, because there's a few things I'm going to discuss which really make my blood boil here. Anyway, cheers to all my subscribers and viewers. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to try and be as balanced and fair as I can be. It's not all going to be bad news. Only 98% bad news. I'm kidding. That was an exaggeration. Maybe. Right, so we've got a bit of a problem with Revell, and I'm going to start off, a sort of start point for me, I think sums up one of the biggest issues of all, which makes a lot of modelers very angry. And I think there's again, I should draw the comparison with Airfix. We talked in the Airfix discussion about the fact that they have these very old kits. I always pat my shoulders when we mention old kit. There's plenty of good old kits like Matchbox, some Airfix as well. However, Revell have this unique approach to this part of the market. Unlike Airfix, who say, here's an Airfix Classic. Am I a bit too bright? I'm just going to dull myself down a bit there. Instead of saying, here's an Airfix Classic, but it has new, sometimes they have new clear parts or they have new decals and things like that, and new instructions. So it makes it more palatable and quite acceptable to relive your youth. The problem with Revell is they do this as well, but they don't tell you. And here's what happened to me. So I've got my iPad here, because we need to have a look at this. I have here, look at this, a classic example of the problem, which I almost went and fell for, I've got to be honest. It is, as you can see, the Harrier GR1. Now I saw this at Telford about just after COVID had finished, I think it was, and I didn't realise that they were saying the Harrier GR1, 50 years of the Harrier. So it's, I think it came out in November 21, this. Was it 22? November 22, yeah, it was last Telford. And I saw it and I thought, oh yeah, that looks brilliant, I'd love a GR1. Now this is before I purchased the Kinetic one. We won't get into that, I mean, again, you all know about my rant about Kinetic. Actually, some of the things I'm going to talk about today will make the Kinetic issues with the Kinetic Sea Harrier I moan about so much seem mild and acceptable. Just bear with me. So here's this kit, and I thought, yeah, and it was about £40, I think, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to get that. It doesn't look beautiful, But it's celebrating 50 years of the Harrier. What it really should say is this kit is 50 years old, because here's the actual kit that this is the same as inside the box. Here we have the original earlier Revell boxing of it, and you can see even by the style of the artwork this is actually from 1972, and there's nothing to indicate that, nothing at all. Now, the more experienced models amongst you that are watching this in the live chat will be shouting, just go to scale, mates. Yeah, of course. And that's exactly what I did. I came within about 30 seconds of buying that kit. And then something just stopped me, and I actually got my phone and I went on scale, mate. And I was like, oh. And then I looked up some other comment about it. People say it doesn't go together well. It's quite nasty. And now they've reboxed it, pretending it's a new kit. Now this is nothing short of dishonesty, I'm afraid, really, is it? Especially, you've got to bear in mind, and I've been watching reviews on some of these Revell kits, even some of the very problematic ones, where certain people who are very experienced, famous modelers have made the most ridiculous excuses for them. I'm sorry, but that's the only word you can use. And people forget that not everybody is a master model builder. I don't think I'd consider myself a master model builder. Getting there slowly, but I'll probably never quite make it, to be honest. But there's the majority of people who are going to buy an Airfix or a Revell kit are not master model builders. They are going to be youngsters or people coming back to the hobby, people who are enthused by and excited by the box art. Yeah? So it's no wonder that they decided to go to this very sexy modern style to completely con you into believing that here we've got a brand new Harrier. Yeah? Everything about that indicates to the mind it's in the latest designer box, it's got the latest graphics, it looks like a brand new tooled kit. Now, alright, it doesn't say so, but again, younger modelers or people returning, they're not experts in this field. That should say Revell Classic or words to that effect, or Revell Prestige, or what's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgia, or something like that. It should indicate that it's an old kit, and it doesn't, and they're doing it all the time. Another example I'm going to flick you to is our old friend, the Matchbox range, which of course Revell bought the rights to the moulds back in the, when would it be? Late 90s, I think it was, 96, 97, something like that. And here we've got the Puma armoured car, and this is now branded. This has been rebranded 18 months, 2 years ago. They now call it First Diorama. Ooh, very dramatic. Again, sexy new artwork, new photography. They even throw in a glue, which actually their glue is actually very good, contactor glue, okay, and a couple of paint pots, which for a beginner is okay. What's not okay is the fact that they don't, again, they're not saying it's classic kit. They are not telling you that this is from 1973, okay, so that is 50 years old this year. And all they do is they mould it in a single colour. And by the way, I've seen the tooling on some of these. The tools are looking a little bit, not knackered, but they need a clean up, a bit like Airfix have done with some of theirs. They just need a bit of a clean up, some of these. So the Sherman Firefly one is looking very dirty, the tooling, compared to the original ones I've got. The absolute original versions from Matchbox. But here's what's unacceptable about it. The price, the retail price on this is $19.99. Now, come on. Now, you can now get it cheaper. These have had a disastrous 18 months of sales, I can tell you. And you can tell because all the prices have dropped. They came out and they were on Amazon for $19.99. I saw one at £23. And I thought, you have got to be joking. This is when they had their earlier Revell version of the boxing selling at £11, £12. All they've changed is throwing a bit of glue and a bit of newer box and let's charge you, you know, almost 100% more. That's not acceptable. And they're doing it worse anyway because, as I say, the tool's not clean. They're only in a single colour. And it just doesn't seem to have the charm of the Matchbox kits. It doesn't have the wonderful box art. It's just a photo. I mean, it's okay, don't get me wrong, but it's still just a photo of a kit, really, which we don't really like. Going back to the old Airfix and Hella days. How can they look you in the eye and charge £20 for that? Now, I know they are now falling because they've been a bit of a disaster sales-wise and they've gone down to £10 or £11. And at £11, actually, they are now very good value because you're getting the extra paint and the glue, especially for youngsters or beginners. So that's fine, but what were they thinking of? They're trying it on again. Now, this is not an honest approach to business, I'm sorry. They're misleading people. Not everybody's got the time or the inclination or the knowledge to go on scale mates and check everything and check the you know, the history and the verify the legitimacy, if you like, of every model. It's just not on. I'm sorry. I think it's disgraceful, really. So this is one of the areas where Revell are really, you know, dropping the ball. Now, the other thing we need to talk about. So that's two issues straight away. We've got ancient kits that are. At least the Matchbox kit was a decent kit, and it does go together nicely. They all did, pretty much. Less so the Harrier. So that's two big examples where Revell are not being honest with the customer, and that, I think, is not acceptable. And I think we should call them out on this. And I don't want to hear any excuses about, oh, well, you know, they've got to... I don't care. If they cannot operate a viable company without lying, which is what they're doing, don't operate a viable company. Go do something else. Make, you know, buckets or something with your moulding equipment. I don't care, quite frankly. I don't think that people should be lied to and have their money taken off them, you know, under false pretenses. It's just wrong. It's just morally wrong. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I'll come back to this in a second. The other thing I wanted to talk about was some comments that were made after my Airfix video. Quite a few comments came up which I thought were quite amusing, and one person in particular clearly didn't understand the difference between value and price. And we talked about cost being used as an excuse for Airfix with them to not be able to add things and not be able to, you know, put pilots in and all this kind of thing, and maybe not be able to deliver the experience that some of us would like. Quite a lot of us, I think, would like. Now, some of these arguments are legitimate, some not so, but I wanted to talk about value just for a second, and this is very pertinent with Revell as well. Now, I am not trying to big up the company I'm going to present very, very rapidly. I'm not going to show you any detail, but I'm just going to present something to give you an alternative view about value. I'm talking about value now. Because somebody made a comment saying, oh, well, yes, but look, Airfix haven't raised their prices this year. And Tamiya, for example, they've raised theirs quite a bit and blah, blah, blah. Well, ignoring the two companies concerned, if you've got a home company, if you're in Japan and you're looking at Airfix products, I bet Airfix products have gone up in Japan. Yeah, because of international exchange rates fluctuating, etc., etc. And shipping costs have gone up, so that will be a big factor in it, in fact. So it's all relative. Your perspective is, you know, you have to take things in the round and be objective, as I said before. It's no good judging a company by, looking at it from one country alone and then attacking the opposition because they put their prices up. A lot of things have gone up. Most things have gone up in the last 12 months or so because of the cost of inflation, etc., right across the globe. So nothing's getting cheaper. And of course, in the case of Tamiya or the Chinese companies or, anywhere that's being brought from afar, you've got all these exchange rates to take into consideration. You've got container costs have gone up, the shipping itself has gone up, etc. And it all adds up. So that wasn't a very valid argument, but the bigger picture I wanted to talk about on value was, forget this is Tamiya, it could be anything really. So don't be led by that. Don't think it's maybe the Fan-boy again. But this is a kit that's retailing for about £100, £110 thereabouts. 32nd scale. Very, very beautiful bit of engineering in it, of course. We all know that, I think. However, unlike, let's take a comparison on price. Something like the 24 scale Spitfire, the new one from Airfix. No, don't worry, Airfix, we're not bashing you here. We're just talking about value and trying to get a perspective on things, yeah? So they've got, granted it's 24 scale, but they always price them around the £95 mark. And this is slightly more, but you get more in the box. You get nameplates to go in your cabinet, yeah? That goes in front of your model. I know this is only a small item, but, it's a little something extra, which is quite nice. Instead of having just on a piece of cardboard, like they did previously, for example. Okay, a Spitfire in this case, but it's the same thing. The Corsair's got it as well. You also get figures. And here we've got, this is from the Spitfire as well actually, this is our old friend from Canada, Charlie Fox, from the Royal Air Force, Royal Canadian Air Force, from World War II. But you get him in the kit, you get him standing, as you see here, and you also get a seated pilot as well, so you get him, so you can put him in flight with the stand. Did I say stand? Yes. You also get a stand. So these are all things that the likes of Airfix are not providing. I'm not having to go Airfix. There's quite a few manufacturers. I'm going to talk about all these, and I'll mention this again. It'll be a reoccurring theme. Here you go again. Again, we've got name on the side because you get a couple of decals with a nameplate on, and you've got a stand there. You can pose it in flight. Quite a sturdy one as well. This. Very sturdy, in fact, and it's got a nicely engineered top to it with a screw that goes into the aircraft. It'll keep it nice and safe so you can have your aircraft sitting on the ground with its gear down, or you can have it in flight. Now, try and remember when you start knocking Tamiya or anybody that's offering something slightly more expensive. In fact, it's slightly more expensive doesn't mean it's not a very good value proposition. There can be lots of reasons. It can be exchange rates or shipping because it has to come a long way across the world, and that applies, as I say, in reverse. If you're in Tokyo, you probably find Airfix prices probably have gone up because of the shipping costs. But as you see on the side, and that's all I'm going to show on this, and then I'll put it away, and then we'll get on into the real nuts and bolts of a Revell. But if you look at this carefully, there you go. It shows it with all the different options, and you can clearly see there's your pilot. You've got standing pilot, you've got seated pilot, and you've got the stand. So try to bear that in mind. You've got photo etch, you've got masks, and again, masks are something else that Airfix don't include. Neither do Revell. And I find the arguments that people come up with, modelers who should know better, frankly, who come up and say, yeah, we can just get aftermarket, Okay, so then you end up with the situation we've got here with Revell. Now we'll get really into them. I talked about this kit, the 48 scale Tornado GR4. Nice kit actually, very cheap, £30 or thereabouts, a little bit less, maybe. But it's got no pilots, it's got no stand, it's got no figures, it's got no masks, there's no photo etch in it. It's average to good quality. The parts of it are quite nice, the parts of it that are not so nice in terms of fit. So what do? We go out and buy a load of aftermarket, and I showed him my How Stupid Is Your Stash video, which I'll put a link on at the end. And we talked about this, and I got out, from that box I got out all the items that were in there that I'd bought. Masks, photo etch, instruments, weapons, Storm Shadow, what else was there? Fuel tank, Storm Shadow. I mean, the list just went on and on. There's like a full PE kit as well. Now, everybody says, oh, the great value, £30. Is it though? Is it though? Why can't they provide all that and say, look, it's £65? But you get all these things. Now, this is what people are missing here in this argument. People don't seem to understand the difference. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. If you're forking out under £110 for Tamiya, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Doesn't mean it's better, but they are charging it in a way that reflects the cost of all the extras that you've got in the box. Now, Revell, and also Airfix as well, in many cases, are doing the opposite. They're giving you a basic kit, which you can enhance. You can go out and buy the aftermarket if you want, but for those that don't want to go that route, perhaps the younger or the returning modeler, you know, beginners or whatever, they can just build the basic kit. It's still going to look a nice Tornado or Ambulance or whatever it is. And that's what people have got to understand, that you get what you pay for. Yeah. But there is one kit that Revell came out with. Well, I should also mention as well about their policy as well. I talked about reboxing of old kits and not saying anything. Now, I'm being pretty hard on Revell here because I think it's merited, okay? However, let's be fair to them. Let's just take a step back. Let me have a little sip, and I'll sip of some happy juice, and I'll say some more positive things about them before I get into the real nitty gritty. I've been expecting you, Mr. Revell. So, reboxings. Revell are notorious for reboxing other people's kits, but I have to say, most of the time when they do that, it's some of the best kits that they do, I'm afraid. Example, they rebox some of the ICM kits like the MiG-25 Foxbat range, and they did 2 or 3 different variants of that in 72nd and in 48 scale, and that is a beautiful kit. I built the actual ICM version as it happened, but I did have and reviewed both the 48th and the 72nd scale Revell version, and it was definitely the ICM moulds, and yeah, good instructions. Their instructions are not too bad these days. They've had a big step forward, a bit like Airfix. They're much nicer than they used to be. I still don't think they're as good as Airfix, but they are much better than they used to be. But those reboxers tend to be pretty good, usually, you know. And I've got a couple of examples here. So, we've got behind me HMS Invincible, the through-deck cruiser carrier, which of course had the Sea Harriers and the Sea Kings on it for use in the Falklands War. Now this is not a Revell kit, this is a Dragon kit. I'm just going to see if it's openable. Is it openable? Can we get in there? Yes we can. So this is the old Dragon kit, classic example, where they've reboxed it. Now, I don't think this is one of Dragon's finest products. It's not bad, but there's a few issues with it. I'll give you an example of what they are. Well, the main issue is one big issue, which screams at you as soon as you start to look at the sprues. Doesn't want to leave, does it? Definitely doesn't want to leave. They've got interlocked in line. Right, here we go. So the big issue is this. Utterly bizarrely, they have moulded the deck of the carrier with these incredibly raised panel lines. And I mean ultra raised. Can you see this? Let's see if I can get you some more brightness. Right, there we go. So these are huge, great big, old school, for no reason, old school ultra high panel lines. Now this is a carrier deck. There is no raised there's no raised line on it. Yes, there are slight divisions of panels, but they'd be recessed, so they should be recessed, not raised. So this is a real horror because, as my good friend Dominic will tell you, he did a beautiful example of this, by the way, about a year ago. You're going to have to cut these off and then scrub it down and sand it down and generally faff about with it. However, overall, it's not a terrible kit. Not a terrible kit at all. Some decent moulding, it's a good shape. You know, you end up with some. You even end up with some at the hole there. It says to zoom you out a little bit for this thing. There's the hole, and then we've even got some Sea Harriers. Look at this. You see those? See Harriers? Look at that. Ha. Okay, so this is a dragon kit that's been basically rebadged as Revell. Not uncommon. Not uncommon in the industry because we get that with many others. Oops. Of course, we get people like Hobby 2000. They rebox a lot of Hasegawa kits, for example. You get Edward. They rebox Revell and Hasegawa, amongst others. It's quite a common practice, in fairness. It's quite a common practice. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that because that's a classic example of, yeah, okay, we've got a horrible, and this is the other thing we hate about Revell, they have these hideous end-opening boxes. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, they're flimsy, very flimsy cardboard. The design itself is flimsy, it bows horribly, you can see it doing it here. But because it's not a top opening box, you can't put your model when you're mid-build. You can, with a top opener, you can put your model in the box, and to keep it safe, keep the dust off. You can't do that with these, not easily. Not a very nice box. They don't last well. They bow when they're in your stash and look horrible. It's the cheapest. It's got a beautiful finish to it, but the actual cardboard is terrible. And they are nasty, horrible boxes. They're not good at keeping it safe in transit either. They should be dropped immediately. It's one of the worst things about Revell of all. Anyway, let's look at another one. The Phantom FGR2. Now, what was I just saying about Hasegawa? Ah, here we have a Hasegawa. Now, it seems to me almost as if, I have to cut this one because I think I've sealed it up with the old Tamiya tape. You need to go back there. I'm having a little bit of issue here, folks. Bear with me a second. Best laid plans and all that. Right, so here we've got another rebox of a decent kit, it has to be said. Probably, until recently, one of the nicest Phantoms you can get. It's probably still one of the nicest. The nicest FGR2 really at the scale, 48 scale. So let's have a quick nosy. So this is Hasegawa in drag. You can almost tell straight away because it's got this very light coloured Hasegawa plastic that they have. It's a real, I've actually resealed this. See, I put the gloves on again intending to handle sprues and then I can't get out of them. I keep doing this. And again, that's typical not Revell, is it? Where they've gone and put this like a protective piece of paper in with the clear parts. It's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? It's Hasegawa. That's very much the Japanese style doing it. But it's a nice kit. It's not the most sharply moulded, but it goes together pretty well. It's fairly old school in the way it's constructed. It's straight joined down the middle, but it's a nice fit, which is probably the most important thing for anybody. And again, this kit is not expensive kit. It's cheaper than buying it from Hasegawa. That's one of the big benefits of the Revell Reboxers is that when they do it, they tend to be cheaper than the original host model that it's come from. We get some nice decals, which I think are cartograph, which Revell tend to use these days, and we get one of their new type of pretty good actually, pretty clear instructions. With no nasties in it particularly. It's going to build well, the joints are going to be reasonable. You might have to do a little bit of work on the odd seam, a little bit of filler here and there, just a touch, just to finesse it, that's all. But nothing terrible at all. Lots of schemes, very nice kit that. And it was retailing for, again, about £28, £29. So I sound like I'm becoming a Revell fan, apart from these awful boxes, of course. Let me just pop that away, and then I'll show you that I'm not a Revell fan at all. Try to be a want to be, but this company makes it very, very hard to take them seriously at times, I'm afraid. However, that is a nice one. So there you go, there's a couple of Rebox Revell kits that are actually very nice. Now I need a stiff drink. Because what I'm about to talk about is not nice at all. I mentioned at the start, I said I thought that they'd recently, in the last 10 years, created the best and the worst kits that they've had for a very long time. Let's have a look what I'm talking about. Now, we're about to see one of their very latest examples, and frankly, I'm going to have to dull this down a bit, I think, because it's not going too well. We'll get rid of that. So here we've got we'll look at the first diorama again. However, about 18 months ago, they came up with this. Now this kit, this is the F18F Super Hornet. Now this followed on from the E version, which wasn't a nice kit either. A lot of issues, fit issues, very poor moulding in terms of the finishing of the moulds. A lot of people complained about it, and then they brought out this two-seater version. And it had been 2 years in development between the two kits. I think it was a 2-year gap. And everybody was hotly expecting this to be like a refined version of that E, and perhaps a little bit more professionally turned out, and perhaps there was a big price tag. This actually had a retail price of approximately, I think it was £99.99. £100. That's a lot for a Revell kit. That's a lot for a Revell kit. So of course an expectation was created. Unfortunately, when it arrived just over a year ago, people were absolutely shocked because it was absolutely dire in terms of, one, you know you're in trouble when the instructions open up with something like this. Have a look at this. This is stuff you couldn't make up. I mean, this is a lesson how manufacturers, how not to do it. And what you've got, I'll try and zoom in so you can read this. It is telling you to remove flash from here, 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 here. Remove flash from here. Remove flash. Remove flash from here, here, here. Remove flash, remove flash. And there is even in the instructions of this kit, it even comes with a note on the instructions saying, I can't remember the exact words, but it basically says, if you find large gaps between joins, use our plasto filler to fill these and then sand them down. Now, this is before you've even got to the plastic, and you start to open this kit, and I know lots of people that have tried to build it. It is buildable, and this is what I'm getting to the crux of why I get annoyed with some of the other modelling community on these things now. Now this is £100, so this is almost Tamiya pricing. I know it's a 32nd scale. This is only £10 retail short of a Tamiya kit like the one I've just shown you briefly before. They are like they were designed by two different species, okay? And I saw one reviewer who should know better, who was making the most outrageous list of excuses about, well, this is where we are in 2022 and we can't expect things to be perfect and we've just got to learn to have the skills and blah blah. No, not at £100. Don't be absurd. £100, this is not legitimate and it's not forgivable at all. This kit came with the most hideous fit. I've seen 3 at least builds where people have been battling with it, fighting it. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but how many people paying £100 should have to go through that? You know, A, life is too short, and B, this is too expensive. If it was £35, £40, you might say, well, you just got to live with it because it's cheap as chips, and therefore those arguments carry a lot more weight if it was cheap and cheerful under £50. But not at £100. I mean, it's retailing today at £75. I'm thinking, you must be crackers, don't go anywhere near it. But again, the unsuspecting modeller is going to get caught. And this is Revell, you know, they're charging such a lot of money that the cynical amongst us look at it and think, well, this is expensive. It's a huge box, it's a massive box, this big. And you're thinking, well, obviously this is going to be good this time. No, it is not going to be good. It's got the most horrible flash examples you've ever seen. How you can have any credibility as a manufacturer going into production with that sort of instruction book already saying there's going to be hit? This is the sort of thing you got in the 60s, for God's sake. This is the 3rd decade of the 21st century. How on earth can any company expect to get away with that without damaging their reputation? You know, I said, I grumbled about a couple of things on Airfix. Their kits are superb compared to this. This is garbage. There is no other word for it. Rant alert. Well, it's no wonder, is it? It's no wonder. If I paid £100, I'd be absolutely furious. I'd be writing to them and demanding a refund. Yeah? Because that's just not of merchantable quality. you know, people saying, well, you know, there are limits to what manufacturers can do. Well, if you can't, if that's the best they can do at £100, they better shut the factory then. This is outrageous. I'm sorry. It's hard. I'm not even laughing because I can't find it humorous. You know, you can't take it seriously, any of it. You literally couldn't make it up that any manufacturer would produce a product like that at that price, that is so poorly conceived. One chap was showing on YouTube, he was doing a build, and he said, and even the tanks, everything was warped. The pins didn't align properly, and it's a bloody disaster, quite frankly. It's appalling quality, appalling. And frankly, you know, they've damaged themselves with that product. It's done Revell's reputation no favours whatsoever. I'm not interested in excuses from people who are master builders and are prepared to put in God knows how many hours, because Revell can't be bothered to do it themselves. Revell can't be bothered to make a clean mould. Revell can't be bothered to do proper quality control checks and basically just send it straight back to the designers and say, you know, listen, Airfix, there's no way, I know there's no way you would have released a product on the market like that. Never. Not even in their worst years, I don't think was it as bad or any worse than this anyway. Not when you consider the price, you know. I mean, we moaned about the 24 scale, the R24 scale kits, but hey, I think even they were good compared to this. It's like something from the 60s, the worst parts of the 60s. I was stunned when I saw the pictures and the condition of the mould, of the actual sprues, and the instructions, which are, you know, there was one other one they did. I don't know if it was the same kit where they actually apologised. I think it was a different kit where they actually had a note in it apologising for I think that was the E. A note saying we apologise for the substandard quality of the kit. Don't go to market with something like that. You are committing commercial suicide. What are they thinking of? This is the Germans. The Germans don't do this. They're the exact opposite of that. You know, our expectation and experience of German products is just the opposite. It's standard bearing, you know, class leading, market leading products. This is abysmal. It's fit for nothing but the dustbin. And I say to everybody, if you're watching this and you're a newcomer or a beginner and you're thinking about buying any Revell kit, and I'm not trying to put you off buying Revell kits because I've mentioned there's some that are really nice, and I've built some that have been quite nice. I built the V2 A4 rocket, vengeance weapon, World War II Nazi vengeance weapon, and that was actually from, is it Serious Hobby? I've forgotten the name of them now. Armour Hobby or Serious Hobby, CMK anyway. And that was a lovely little kit, and it was only, I think I paid £11 for it. That was a smashing little kit, beautiful. But it wasn't Revell's, you see the problem. And it sounds, you're listening to me now and you're going to be thinking, I'm not going to touch another Revell kit, unless you go on Scalemates, and this is what I was going to say. Scalemates becomes critically important if you're thinking of buying Revell kits. You need to go on there, look up the history of the kit, and look back at the timeline. So make sure you scroll to the left, yeah? Because then you'll see exactly what you're buying. And in the case of that blooming dog Harrier, you're buying something that is 51 years old now. It's absolutely awful. I can't believe I'm having to make a video that's quite as negative as this has been. I'm going to end this video on a high though. All is not lost. There is hope for Revell yet, but you know, given that this company has been owned by this venture capitalist Quantum since 2018, they've had time enough to put this right, really. So it worries me that maybe this is them trying to cut corners. And I'm guessing, I'm not making any allegation here, but given that they had 2 years to produce this and it came out last year, well, that's well within Quantum's control, so I don't understand what they're doing. But I'll tell you something, Airfix are having you for breakfast, no question whatsoever. You're going to have to pull your socks up, Revell, because the quality that you're producing is not good enough. Your ethics look absolutely dire, completely dishonest the way you're approaching the customer. You're going to have to be more upfront. Somebody did say in a comment to me last week that, I think it was on the Airfix show, and they said that Revell at one point, I don't remember this, but he said that Revell did used to put classic or words to that effect, or vintage, on the kit name to tell you it was an older one, but they dropped this about 5-10 years ago. Well, they better get back to it, frankly, because their reputation is just getting dragged into the mud now. And people are just, like me actually, are starting to just switch off a little bit from them. Now, I'm not anti-Revell, because as I say, the Tornado is a decent kit. but you're going to have to spend a load on aftermarket to bring it up to standard. And this is the problem, it's not good value, going back to my Tamiya analogy. That Tornado there, if you buy, did I buy the engine nozzles as well? I can't remember now. No, I think that's the one thing I didn't buy. But if you buy decent engine nozzles and all the bits you're going to need, you'll spend, and I'm not exaggerating, that kit there is £30. Well, I've got about 120 quid worth of extras in it. So it's worth about 140, 150 pound. That. So that's not a cheap kit. There's nothing good value about it when the quality is poor, and you then, oh, you can just go to aftermarket. Yeah, you can just go to aftermarket. You can just overcome all their laziness and idleness and bad design. Of course you can. You can achieve anything you want to achieve with your own skill and determination. It's like me with my Sea Harrier. That was actually a mild case compared to some of these things I'm talking about. I think if I'd have got that F18F, I'd have chucked it in the bin. I know I would. Because as I've said, I'm not going to put up anything like that ever again. But I wouldn't go down quietly. I'd be definitely writing to Revell, and I'd be doing a video like this. It serves them right. I've got no qualms about being objective, as I've said before. This is honest. There's going to be one or two of you who might pop up and say, yes, I've had this. I know one person said, I've binned mine. I read this on one of the forums saying I've binned it. I just couldn't do with it. Life's too short. You know, I've got 10 nice kits in the stash to build. Why would I put myself through months and months of this? Stupid. And it's, you know, that person is going to be put off Revell probably for life. This is very short-sighted of the manufacturer. If I were you, Revell, I'd pull your finger out, stop trying to lie, con the customer, be dishonest, yeah? This is most un-German. I just cannot understand it. It's just completely out of character for a German company to behave like that, especially when they're a market, you know, well-known market brand, very strong in their markets. This is damaging them. It's damaging them bad. So, as I say, I've got no reservation about bringing this to people's attention. A lot of you know, a lot of you know about it already, but it's absolutely ridiculous, to be quite honest. Anyway, rant over. I'm going to try and end this on a positive. I'm going to try, because last year, when I had my kits of the year, I've just remembered, when I had my kits of the year review, a Revell kit got into the top 5, a brand new kit. And I didn't see it coming. It kind of popped up out of the blue unexpectedly. It was only 1/72 scale aircraft. And it was the exact opposite of all those things I've just talked about. So, and I think I'm right in saying, this particular kit that was brilliant was manufactured in their Polish factory. So I should get out my Polish flag for this, wave the Polish flag. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And it was... Oh, the old Sea Harrier, have you seen this? Sea Harrier haunting me still, look at this. You can see, I've sort of forgiven it in a way, haven't I? Sharky Ward and his Sea Harrier. Anyway, enough of that. Oh, no. Oh, yes, and I've almost forgotten. Sorry, this is the next one I wanted to talk about. I've jumped ahead. Right, sorry about that. My sequencing went wrong there. Here's another example of them trying to improve, but failing. This is the SR71 Blackbird. Now, it's a 48 scale kit, and the retail price on this, I think it was about £95. Now, you can get these kits cheaper than this now, especially when they've been failing in sales terms, and quite a lot of people have got stock of them, and you can pick them up a lot cheaper. But I just have a quick look at this. So this was very hotly anticipated. I was looking forward to this. I nearly pre-ordered it, but because it was Revell, I was like, I think I'll just hang fire on this. So this came out... Again, I think it came out about Christmas, not last Christmas, but Christmas previous. So it's about 18 months ago. And here we have the 48 scale. So this is a big, big kit, okay? It's a big kit. Now, you would expect... It also comes with this option of the 2 engines that we make that out. You've got 2 engines which... They sit on the... This does come with a stand. It's got 2 engines. So I like that. And when I heard about it, I thought, oh, this is right up my street. I've got to get myself this. Oh, yes, the Blackbird. It's going to be a beauty. It's going to be a beauty. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not beset by the horrible problems of that Hornet E and Hornet F Super Hornet, which were just biblically bad. A whole new level of bad, you know. You heard me rant about the Sea Harrier. This Revell product was way worse, okay. May not have suffered from the instructional problems that Kinetic had, but the actual plastic was pretty bad. Pretty bad. Now this, on the other hand, was a better quality product, but it fell short. The problem was, essentially, it was the moulding. It just didn't have that much more detail than a 72nd scale version. It didn't have that much finesse that you expect from an upscale kit, especially something of this magnitude. And it just looked, when I saw the sprues, I was just literally about to place my order, and I saw the first photograph of the sprues, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, really? And it just looked like a scaled up 72nd scale. The panels were it was all very uniform looking. It didn't have any sort of those, on this Blackbird, if you've ever seen it, you get all sorts of bulging panels and slightly uneven panels, and it didn't have any of that. It just looked like a little 72nd scale, upscaled, very bone-idly, and then they put it on a stand with these two engines. And again, this was a kit that was best part of £100 when it came out, so I didn't bother to order it. And then I saw the reviews when it did come out, and I just thought, yes, you did the right thing. And the huge excitement that surrounded this kit sort of just died really quickly. Another, not a tragic failure, not a quality failure so much, but just a failure, missed opportunity, you know. It didn't move the game on in any notable way at all that you could visibly detect. It was just a bigger version of a 72nd scale like the Italeri one. Very disappointing, just disappointing. So, you know, that's a new kit they brought out that, again, in the last 3 years, we've had a terrible kit, dire. We've had a rather disappointing average kit. Now it's time for the good one, okay? Now this is the kit that I voted, I think it came 5th in my kits of the year last year. Now that for a Revell kit, that's quite something. And it's this one. It's the 72nd scale F15E Strike Eagle. Now this, I ended up actually, I reviewed this and then I auctioned it off to raise money for Ukraine charities, disaster aid charities. This was completely different. Now again, I'll post you a link of this in my my wind up at the end of the show here, because this was the exact opposite of these dreadful products that they've been producing. It had some beautifully finessed surface detail. It had some very clever interlocking parts that really worked together very well to avoid some seams and bad joins and things. It had some very, very nice detail around the cockpit area. It was the best kit from them I can think of for like 10 or 15 years, I think. At least 10 or 15 years. I was amazed by it. It really was nice, you know. I would have kept this and built it had I not already got the Revell old tool, 1994 tooled 48 scale version of the F15E Strike Eagle, which most of you have seen. So this is why I passed it on for charity, for raising money for charity. But bought by a good friend of ours, Gary from Manchester. Give a quick plug there, Gary. It was very generous. Anyway, that's by the by, but I think he was very pleased with it as well. That shows that I'm not wrong. This shows that Revell are, in fact, capable of producing a quality product. And I just wonder, you know, I mean, I know we had a similar conversation with Airfix, but we weren't talking about dire quality there. We were talking about some average kits versus some brilliant kits. Now we're talking about good kits versus just garbage at Revell, yeah? So I just wonder why we have this variance and what they need to get control of this. We need more of that. No, not that. That. We need more of that. That was a cracking little kit. And it was $19.99. Now this does everything that some of these people that have been defending Revell claim. Yeah? This was good value for money. It was affordable, perfect for the beginner or the returnee to the modelling hobby. It will bring a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. And nice decals on it. Good instructions. Nice clear parts. There was nothing not to like, yeah? So why on earth did they produce, the same year they produced that dog of an F18F? It is astonishing. And the price was just ridiculous, you know. apologising for things, apologising for bad quality, telling you you've got to remove all this flash. In their own instructions, this is the most damning indictment, confession of bad quality that I've ever seen from a kit manufacturer. Calm yourself, have a drink, and have a breather. That's my 2 penneth on Revell. I think you can see that I've been fair, but brutal, because it needs brutality. What are they doing? If I was a German, I'd be even more angry than I am, because it's undermining their brand Germany. You know, the Germans don't do rubbish like this. What's wrong with them? It's just incredible. You know, I've always expected great products from Germany, and you know, along with the Japanese and the UK, they're probably the three of the best engineering companies, and the USA, of course. But certainly in terms of premium engineering and innovation, these are countries that normally lead the world, but that just doesn't feel right. And I think if they don't get a grip of this, they're going to be out of business. Nobody wants that. I don't want it. I've just shown how enthusiastic and delighted I was with that F15. It was beautiful. And I said so. You know, you see it in the link. I said, this is not like Revell of recent. This is fantastic. So they can do it. They just need more focus. Why they couldn't kick that terrible F18 just back into production and say, guys, either sort this out or you're fired, frankly. Because for someone like that, can you imagine Tamiya ever producing something like that at any price? Absolutely, just isn't in their DNA. You know, people would be sacked on the spot, and the design team would be replaced, and the production team as well, because the actual quality of the moulds was obviously bad. The flash, the finishing, the QC, there isn't any, and it's almost as though the person that wrote their instructions on that Hornet, Super Hornet, was left to clear up the broken crockery. You know, of a disaster, an absolute disgrace. You know, and you know, I moaned about kinetic. Well, this is a new low in the industry, I think, from Revell. So listen, I'm not going to harp on about it anymore. This company has got, you know, people in the UK, even people like the brand, but they're not going to if they carry on producing garbage like that. That is just junk, fit for the bin. £100, I wouldn't give you £50 for it. Unbelievable, really. They're going to have to do better, aren't they? They're going to have to do better. Look at what you're getting now for your money. You've got Airfix, who are certainly totally superior to that sort of nonsense, and with, you know, a variety of interesting subjects. You've now got people like Armour Hobby. You've got ICM. I mean, ICM are treading all over Revell's tail, frankly, and not too far away. You know, and producing kits in the most difficult circumstances imaginable. You know, wiping the floor with Revell, frankly, on quality, fit, boxing, pretty much everything, really. I mean, I will say that Revell's artwork, I don't know who does their artwork, but their artwork is lovely. And that's, after that, it goes downhill for me. It really does. You know, the minute you open the box, it's why do they persist with these stupid boxes? Revell, if you're listening, you need to change your box design. That's your first job. Second job is, you're going to have to get your quality control under control, because it isn't. I think that you cannot be apologising and explaining the bad quality and the instructions before somebody's even got to the plastic. It's just unfathomable in the 21st century that you can get away with that, and it's going to hurt your company. So I'm not going to carry on giving business lessons. You better get your act together, because it's just going to come back and bite you in the backside, and this is going to destroy Revell as a brand. It's damaging them already. I mean, I am now very jaundiced. If I'd have bought that Harrier, that would have been right on the desk here, I can tell you. They can produce brilliant qualities, and that's what they've got to focus on doing. They need to stop churning out rubbish, stop churning out bad boxes, which has got dishonest artwork, you know, showing a new artworks on very, very ancient kits. And they've got to have a complete rethink on their quality control and the way they're presenting themselves to the market. Because whether you're owned by venture capitalists or you're not, you will not make it in this very competitive market. You know, you've got all these guys in Ukraine, you've got Mini Art, Models Fit, you've got ICM, many others. You've got Eduard are way better than Revell, of course they are, apart from their day cars, but we'll get to that in another episode. But you know, Revell is the other household name. Revell and Airfix, along with Tamiya to a less degree, are the names that people know the best. This is destroying Revell's credibility completely, and they've got to get it back on the rails, and they've got to take some action and do it very quickly. Because if they carry on producing kits like that, people are just going to dismiss them. You know, the more knowledgeable modelers become, the less chance Revell have got if they carry on repeating the mistakes of the past and churning out rubbish. It's as simple as that, really. And that's all I've got to say, really. I don't want to be... As soon as I started this series, I thought, oh, Airfix, you're going to have some slightly critical comments. And then I thought, oh, there's Revell. Oh my God, what can I say positive about Revell? Because I'm so cross with them about so many things. Yeah. They want your hard-earned money. And if they are charging very low price, you can kind of understand it with this Tornado example, which is quite a typical one. Yes, it's very cheap, and it's sort of cheap and cheerful. Not cheerful enough. It is good for the money. If you're satisfied with a fairly basic kit, I would say go for it. If you want a more upmarket kit, I don't think it's worth all the time and effort and the money to buy that, and then all these and I'm guilty as anybody. I bought all these aftermarket. That box contains only 150 quid's worth, of which only £30 is the kit. It's crazy, absolute madness what I've done there. It's not good value, it just isn't. For what I've paid for that, you could buy the Artillery 1/32 scale Tornado, which without any aftermarket is a better kit than that. Think about it. Think about it. It's not good value. It isn't. People make excuses for everything about justifying things. Oh yeah, but you can. No, hang on a second. What about what you've bought and what it's cost you? What is the value of what you bought? And in the case of some of these, it's very, very poor indeed. If you've got, and it's not just Revell now, but if you've got to buy this and this and this and this, and there's a list of things to make the kit half decent, then frankly it's not worth buying the kit. If there's no alternative, of course, like I kind of had with the Sea Harrier in a way, then that's different. You have to work through it, as I did with the Kinetic Sea Harrier. But that was a kit with some nice plastic, but some very poor elements to it, and the biggest problem was its terrible instructions, which were so confusing and misdirectional, especially to a beginner, that it would cause absolute nightmares for people. Revell have actually got the instructions relatively simple. They keep it very basic. What they're not doing well is the execution of the plastic. That's the biggest problem I think they've got of all. And these stupid boxes which belong in the 1990s, they've long since had their day, you know. If they just ignore me and ignore all of us that are watching this programme, if they just want to carry on doing things their way and think it'll just keep pushing them out cheap, just keep pushing them out, you'll just end up going out of business. I can see it coming. There's a real danger here for companies that are not responding to what the customers want, especially when we've got this very difficult financial situation right across the globe. Inflation's going up and people are struggling in many, many countries. It's time to make some choices. Now you can take the view, I'll just buy cheap kits. I will buy Revell, but that's probably, we've got a more sophisticated clientele in the modelling world now that are going to want more than that. And I think if people want a quality product, they're not going to buy Revell, are they? You know, they're not. You know, I mean, people complained about the Qatari Spitfire, a bit expensive at £85, £90. It's got no engine. Well, neither have most of these Revells. Most of them don't have an engine, but by the time you've added one, you've got double the price of the Qatari Spitfire. So come on, see things in context. What's the true value? To get to the perfect model that you want to enjoy building, I don't mean easy, I just mean enjoyable build, giving you the result you want. What is that going to cost, and what's the result going to be like? And you're going to find that some of these cheap ones, like Revell are producing, really don't merit being purchased at all. You might as well just go and buy, you know, I mean, before they brought out this rather nice F-15E Strike Eagle, which all credit to Revell. Finally, I mean, if they hadn't brought that out, what would I be talking about today? Oh dear, it'd just be totally 100% negative. Alright, 95%. They've got one or two good ones. But it's tough, you know. think about it like this. Great Wall Hobby have got their 72nd scale F15E Strike Eagle. Now Revell have brought theirs out. Theirs is about £25–30 cheaper, and it's quite a nice kit, as I've said. Now suddenly, this is exactly what Revell need to be doing. They need to revisit some kits like that, like, dare I mention this, the 32nd scale Corsair from World War II, where they've got another 50-year-old kit. Oh, it's just awful, really. It's very basic, outdated, and again they've put new box art on so it looks like a new kit. Oh. Here's my takeaway for everybody watching, especially the less experienced amongst you. If you're thinking about getting a Revell, always pause. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't buy it. Just check it on Scalemates. Find out how old it is, and if it's old, do more research. It may not be a bad kit. They've got one or two that are okay, but do your research and make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, because there are so many that it's like a minefield, and so many of these that look sexy new boxes with these big graphics on them and colours, looks like bang up to date artwork, and then you open the box and it's 1972 all over again, which some of you may not have seen the first time. Don't do it. It's a trap. They're trying to trick you a lot of the time, and you can't let them do that. So that's my advice to you. For the rest of us, we have to just weigh up the pros and cons, don't we, and decide whether we think it's worth the extra aggravation, the time and the effort, or do we just go and buy something that's going to give us everything in one box? Do we, I mean, obviously if you want to tailor things to our own taste, then fine, fill your boots and buy aftermarket, sure. But don't fall into the trap. Don't, you know, like the person that was saying, oh yeah, well Airfix is very cheap and they didn't put their price in. Yeah, but there's much more to it than that, isn't there? Yeah? What are you getting in the box? How much is it really going to cost you to actually build that kit when you bought all the things that are missing, especially with Revell? No masks? No. No, nothing like that. This is where, you know, I think that the Airfixers and the Revells of this world need to really think about that. But I do feel with Revell, you know, they've had plenty of time now. I think the time for forgiveness and turning a blind eye is kind of coming to an end. My tolerance of them is very low. But that doesn't mean I don't like their products when they do it well. You know, I've got 3 kits here. That one got some issues, but not too bad. That one's a good one. That one's pretty good. You know, this is a sort of 8.5 out of 10 kit. This is a sort of, yeah, probably 8.5, 9 out of 10. But it's hard to go at. It's not really Revell at all. And it's a bit of a sad state of affairs, and they've got to rebox other people's kits to sell a decent kit. You know, like the Fox Bat. I mean, that was a lovely kit from ICM, but yeah, I could go on for hours talking about it. But at the end of the day, they can do it when they want to. They've just proven it. All Revell has to do for me to give them a future rave review or two is to just see what you did with that Strike Eagle and repeat, yeah? Step and repeat that onto other kits, the way you've approached it. Innovation in the design, quality in the moulding, nice finish, nice plastic, good instructions, lovely decals. The only thing that's wrong on that kit is the box. Sort your boxes out first and foremost, and then roll into the future. It's time for you to take a deep breath and have a fresh start, I think. In fact, quite a few of their older kits, they need to either put them down as a vintage model or just drop them, quite frankly. There's quite a few of theirs that are fairly terrible. As for the Matchbox, rebadged Matchbox, the first diorama, well, I'm not opposed to those per se, obviously, because I'm such a fan of Matchbox, but they got to drop the price. I think that them coming into the market, trying to retail them at £20 or 20 or more, that was just ridiculous. Especially when they've just been selling the same product at 11. That's just greedy, you know, and that's not, again, it's taking advantage of unsuspecting customers, especially when one or two of the moulds need a bit of attention. So they've got some work to do. But I firmly believe they can do it. They've just proven it, haven't they? You know, I don't need to keep repeating myself. They've proven it with the F15. Just do that in the future and move forward. Anyway, there you go. That's it from me. A bit of a rant, I'm afraid, today. The whole thing has been a rant. I'm sorry, Revell, that I've got to be a bit brutal with you, but frankly, you kind of earned it. There we go. I don't think I've said anything unreasonable at all. Coming soon, there will be more, and we're going to be talking ICM, we're going to be talking Edward, we're going to be talking about Great Wall Hobby, Meng. That's a tale of two kits, I'll tell you. They have a double-sided edge to them. Who else we're going to be looking at? Tamiya, obviously, and Zokimura, to name but a few. So in the meantime, I hope you'll. I'm afraid that I only give Revell 6 out of 10, 6 out of 10 for their performance recently. You know, they can't produce kits that are so as bad as that. They're making themselves a laughing stock in the industry. I'm sure other manufacturers must have looked at that and thought, what were they thinking of? Yeah, come on, have you got no management? God, it's crazy. Anyway, I hope you'll give me a higher rating and give me 10 out of 10. Sorry it was a bit of a nasty one today, but it reflects the problem, doesn't it, really? I don't think any of the others are going to be anything like as brutal as this. I hope not, anyway. I'm pretty sure they won't be. Because I can't think of anything where there are so many issues that need tackling, really, in the way that we had today. Please stay tuned. We will have some. I've got some very interesting new kits coming up in the near future. I say new kits. Some of them are not. They're not new releases. I've got some new ICMs coming up. Some really good ones. But we've also got some sort of classic kits and kits that a friend of mine has loaned me some very interesting kits, all in nice condition, beautiful mint. But several that I quite liked and I've never seen before. So we're going to be having probably a bit more volume of material coming through in the next couple of months. So between now and Christmas, I think we'll have quite a lot to look at, really. So that's what we've got lined up for the future. We've got a brand new kit coming in from Japan very soon, and a new one from Airfix coming in. Lots of things to look forward to. So in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Hope you didn't mind me being a bit brutal today. Some Victorian values and dealing out some justice. Thank you for watching anyway. Until next time, look after yourselves, take care, thanks a lot, and bye for now.